Julie Gross. I know most of you. If I don't know you, hello. Stephen, I don't think I know you. Nice to see you. And nice to see everyone else. Before we get going, I'd like to do a prayer for those out in the cold today. Lord, we are blessed to be in warmth for this meeting. Let us please remember those who are hopefully finding their way to warming centers. Let us remember those who need your help today to beat the cold and who are relying on the kindness of others. All this we ask in your name. Amen. Well, I'm Julie Groves. Like I said, I know most of you. I'm going to do a 2 or 3 minutes little introduction about myself. Don't worry, I'm not going back to high school or anything like that. And then I will take questions, and if we get a little slow, I've got other things we can talk about, so don't worry about that. All right, like I said, I'm Julie Gross. I'm at Christ Church in Cedar Rapids. Been here, it'll be 3 years on December 6th of this year. So we're very blessed to be here and very blessed to know you all and new friends. All right, I'm going to be very frank and very open. You can ask me anything about my mental illness. Now, this is about my experiences with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. In other words, I'm depressed and anxious. It's my journey of the last 38 years. My experiences are unique to me, and I am not speaking for everyone who is mentally ill. However, as you know, with any illness, there are going to be common experiences and feelings. Now, if you are here to learn about mental illness because you or a loved one has never experienced it, I thank you for being here. If you are mentally ill or love someone who is, you are my family. I am here today because of God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, my husband, my 3 children, and modern medicine. And I say this very honestly, without them, I'd be dead or permanently institutionalized. My mental illness is a physical illness. Specifically, the chemicals, nerves, and pathways in my brain do not work correctly. I have been treated with pills, shock treatments, inpatient, and TMS. As with any illness, stress can make this worse. I'm mentioning the physical illness aspect to you because, yes, I have been told it's a character flaw. And yes, a friend of mine was told during a sermon that her mental illness is a sin. I have, in case you don't know a lot about depression and anxiety, I'm going to give you a few buzzwords. Depression is feelings of sadness, emptiness, or hopelessness, angry outbursts, extreme irritability, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities, extreme frustration, hopelessness, guilt, feelings of worthlessness, and feelings of helplessness. On a personal note, to me it is, this may sound odd, but to me it's a physical pain. And it's very frustrating because if you break your leg, you can go and get that fixed. And it may be an hour or 2, but that will be fixed. If you're suffering from mental illness and you're in pain, you suffer until they can get your meds right or another treatment. There are degrees on how I will feel at any given time. And to explain this, think of 2 different light switches. One is the regular on-off. And when it's on, I can wake, when it's off, I'm sleeping. And there's a reason why a lot of people with depression sleep a lot, because this may be self-evident, but you don't feel the pain when you're sleeping. And then when you wake up, Sometimes I'll wake up and it just hits me like a train and I have full-on depression all day. Other times it's like a light switch or a dimmer switch. If you remember the old dimmer switches, where I'll wake up and it's not too bad, but it waxes and wanes throughout the day. A lot of people with mental illnesses have what I call tells, or how they know they're going to have a challenging day. For me, I have trouble grooming myself for getting in the shower, brushing my teeth. A lot of people who are mentally ill have bad teeth, because when you're having a really bad day, just getting up and going to the bathroom is a challenge. All right, and now I'm going to do a quick summary of what anxiety is. It is extreme restlessness, severe anxiety not related to a particular event or situation, severe fear, repeatedly going over thoughts, hypervigilance, extreme irritability, lack of concentration, excessive worry, being trembly or twitchy, perceiving situations as life-threatening even when they're not, difficulty handling uncertainty, and the inability to relax. Now, I think I mentioned I've been going through mental illness since I was 18. That's 38 years. And for 35 years, 36 years, I would describe myself as having depression and some anxiety. Those have switched within the last year and a half. I don't know why. I don't know why. Some things will make it better. I feel bad. Sorry, Brian. But this summer, the only thing that made it feel better was being outdoors and doing something physical. So my husband and I re-landscaped our entire front yard in 2 weeks, because I was out there for hours and the poor man was out there for hours. And anxiety, and the typical anxiety medications don't work for me. I have what's called an atypical reaction. I tried one, diazepam, which is supposed to be one of the best. Brian was at a meeting and I don't know why, I can't explain what happened, but he came home from the meeting and I just started screaming at him for no reason. I remember screaming, "Am I a joke to you?" I have no idea why I said that. I was hitting furniture. So I can't take anxiety medications that are pretty typical for others. All right, that's my little intro to myself. Does anybody have any questions so far? And just wave your hand and I'll call on you. If not, I do have other material, so don't worry, we won't. Katie, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Maybe a comment first. And I just want to thank you for doing this, Julie. You're such a wonderful ambassador and really helping people to understand what it's like to live with an illness, and the illnesses that you have. And also, you're a light, and you have brought so much light to the lives of the Christ Church community. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
You know, you've had this since started this illness at 18. You've had a lot of years. There's also been a lot of changes, I think, on treatment options and that sort of thing. And I'm just curious, what have you seen evolve in a positive way? What have you seen maybe not evolve that needs to evolve, that isn't evolving as quickly as you would like?
All right. Well, I'm going to bring a little God into that answer, if that's okay. I've been asked if I'm upset with God for going through this or having this illness. I am not. in my mind, God is jumping up and down and doing everything that God can to inspire doctors and physicians and scientists to relieve my pain. And for that, I thank God. Started out, everybody that had years ago, the first medicine I took is the first medicine everyone took, which was Prozac. That was the first big medicine. And from there, boy, I can't tell you how many I've been on. Now, the thing with medication, I talked earlier about you have a broken leg, you can get it fixed. If you start a new psychiatric medication, it takes generally about 5 or 6 weeks to kick in. And if it turns out that you have a bad response to it or you're not responding to it, you have to go off of it slowly and then try something else. I went off of one too quickly once and I had a seizure. So I don't do that anymore. I'm maxed out on my meds currently, so I have what's called treatment-resistant depression with my medication. Now I'll go to something else that I've not watched it on purpose, but One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, ECT or shock treatment. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I wrote how it works in case I was asked about treatments. Small electric currents are passed through the brain, intentionally triggering a brief seizure. This causes changes in brain chemistry that can quickly reverse symptoms of certain mental health conditions. I had this, I don't know how long ago I had this because it messes with your memory. So I've forgotten. I'm not good on timing around this. I know I had all 3 of my kiddos, and I know my youngest, I think, was about 10, so maybe about 12 years ago is when I had this. It worked amazingly well, amazingly well. But I couldn't sustain it because it was also terrifying. And it wasn't terrifying because of the staff. The staff, I had it in Denver, Colorado, because we come from the state of Wyoming and they weren't doing it. The staff was amazing, but it's terrifying to be wheeled back in a room and then, yeah. You are asleep during the procedure, which is a blessing. They used to not do that. And now you're giving anesthesia. And then, of course, you throw up on the trip back to Wyoming a lot. Recently, Katie, I'm glad you asked this question because recently 2 very exciting procedures have started. One is called TMS, which I just completed a course in a couple months ago. Many people have not heard of this, and that's okay. It stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation. This to me is science fictioning. I don't get it. It's weird, but I'm going to read what it does to you. Magnetic fields are used to stimulate nerve cells in the brain to improve symptoms of major depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder. An electromagnetic coil is placed against the scalp of your head. This coil delivers magnetic pulses that stimulate nerve cells in the region of your brain involved in mood control and depression. It's thought to activate regions of the brain that have decreased activity. Basically, they put a magnet on your head and let it go for a little while. It worked for me really well. Really well. I'm very pleased with my results. I can't tell you how pleased. And like I said, it's so weird. When I was getting the treatment, I kept on thinking to myself, this is so strange. But it was wonderful too. I've seen really good results. I have to go back about every 9 months in a year. I'm going to time it so I'm not traveling 380 in the winter because I get mine done in Iowa City at the health center there. I had no side effects. I could drive myself there and back. It it took me longer to drive there than the treatment. Anyway, that's one of the new treatments. The last one I'm going to talk about I have not had, and that is ketamine treatment. Ketamine was probably still is in some circles, a club drug. It causes you to feel really good, and it causes hallucinations. Brief hallucinations, but hallucinations. And this is thought to create more connections through the synapses between brain cells, which eases depression and decreases suicidal thoughts. Again, it is almost apparently on your first treatment, you will come out of it feeling good. You can either get it nasal spray or IV. I thought about this because it works so quickly, but I'm never going to do it. I don't even like being drunk. And so I think me having hallucinations for even 10 minutes, that's not for me. But I'm pleased that it's out there for people that it's working for. Things that I wish would change. Okay, you're going to get me going on this one. I've had a lot of good doctors and medical care. I've had a lot of bad doctors and medical care. Unfortunately, if you're going through pain, it's in my experience, unless you can say the words, I'm a danger to myself or others, people are very slow to react to your pain. This summer when I was re-landscaping our house, and when I was in such deep pain, I was jumping up and down and waving my arms at my doctor. And this was at the University of Iowa. I was jumping up and down, waving my arms, saying, I need help. I need help. And no one helped me. I was told to take an antihistamine and come back in about 6 weeks. I changed doctors. That's one thing that's really wrong with this system. And I realize insurance covers a lot, but I'm wondering if people would think along the way of, first of all, if you can catch people and help them before they get suicidal, you're saving lives. Insurance companies, I would love to tell insurance companies, if you can catch people before they end up inpatient, you're saving money. It's a win-win. And I don't know who to get this information out to, but I'm starting with you all. That's what I wish would change. That's what I wish would change.
Julie, I wonder if you could help us understand how best we can respond and support people who are going through the kind of pain you have endured, and what's the most helpful way that we can be with you and
Thank
others?
You. I appreciate you asking that, and I was hoping someone would ask that because I've got an answer for you. I've got several answers. First of all, please know, have you seen the Rexulti commercial on TV where someone's holding up the smiley face? Have you seen that? That's so right on. Because a lot of people, myself included, I'm really good at acting. I can be suicidal, and you will have no clue. So please, if someone that you think is doing well tells you that they're not, our affect often doesn't match our mood. We are very good at masking what we honestly feel. Please be careful when offering advice. We know you mean well, but finding out we will be cured with aromatherapy or massage is not helpful. It's not. And we know you mean well. And please don't give us books to read. I don't want to read about depression when I'm depressed. I just don't. Respect any boundaries that we set. If we say we can't do something and we're dropping out, respect that. I have a little note with this too, though. If we're dropping out of things and you're worried, we're in a lot of pain. I'm going to contradict myself, then cross the boundary. If you think we may be suicidal or we're in just a huge amount of pain, call 988. 988, a lot of people think it's just for someone who's standing there and is about to take pills. It's not. It's also for people who are, are going through a lot of pain with their mental illness. I say call 988 because a lot of people don't know exactly what resources are available in their community. And that's at least a way to start. We have some wonderful resources in Cedar Rapids and we're blessed. But again, respect the little boundaries. But if your alarm bells are going off, you have my permission to blow them out of the water. Just blow them out of the water. This one's probably my biggest one, Melody. Please treat someone with a mental illness the same as any other illness. And by that, I mean, I've often told people, mental illness is not a casserole illness. If someone falls, someone breaks their leg, you have church ladies and men lining up and saying, well, what can I do? Can I bring a casserole over? Do you need help cleaning your house? Do you need help going someplace? People are afraid to do that, and I'm not sure. It's an illness, and we appreciate it. We may not take you up on it, but we will never forget that you asked. For me, this may not be for everyone, but texting is better than calling. Sometimes when people call, and if I'm answering and I'm having a bad time, I probably don't want to answer, but I'm afraid you're in trouble. So I will answer. Texting is better, especially if you state that you don't expect to text back, you're just checking in and can you do anything. Texting is better. One person, I don't know if she's on, she was going to join Kate, but I'm going to call out Dot. Dot's really good. When I'm in church and she knows I'm going through a bad time, if I'm sitting by myself, she'll come up to me and say, do you want company or do you want to be alone? That's fabulous. She will text me and say, do you want a coffee or do you want to just talk or do you want to be left alone, just making sure you're okay? That too is fabulous. And the last one, if you don't know how to help, it's okay to ask. I do not mind when people say, I don't get it. I don't get it, but how can I help? Can I help? I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. I love that. I love that. I do. I do. Those are the main things, Melody. Are there any other questions right now? Yes, Amy.
I just wondered if you've maybe looking back more now, noticed different times in your life when it, like physically, maybe you were going through changes, like whether it's like pregnant and having kids or like through perimenopause, menopause, that kind of thing. If it was worse or better, if you saw it fluctuating more.
No, my depression, anxiety have no rhyme or reason. They just decide to. Before we came to Iowa, we were homeless. My dad was dying. You'd think my depression would be bad, but I was okay for through all that, I was fine. Not fine, I mean, it was difficult, but my depression didn't come. The year after that, my depression didn't come, and then boom. I can't figure it out. And that's why I say mine is, I know that a lot of people's, and mine probably too, are exasperated by life events But mine just, I don't get it. I wish I get an answer. I just don't get it. Yes, Tracy.
I was curious on, you are so open with all of this and discussion, and I love that. And I was just curious, have you always been this open, or was there anything that prompted you to start speaking more about this?
When I learned, when I was 18, and I first started going through this, I didn't understand it was a physical illness. And my family were very ashamed of me. So I was not open at all. You just, back then, I graduated high school in '87. You didn't talk about it because, oh my God, we're ashamed. We had to be ashamed of it. I've grown ever since, boy, it's been maybe about 15 years when I realized that it's a physical illness. People with cancer, diabetes, etc., shouldn't be ashamed. It's not their fault. This isn't my fault. Now, Brian, my husband, and my children, and my mother-in-law, as if we're going to talk about family, I'm very open with. I feel guilty about this. 2 of my 3 kids have severe depression, and one has severe OCD along with the depression. I feel guilty about that. I do. I know I shouldn't, but I do. My mom and my brother, we do not talk about it. She tells people I have back problems. Yeah, and that hurts. That hurts. I was talking to her yesterday on the phone, and I wanted to tell her about this. And I know if I did, she would just freak out. Oh my God, do they know? When my mother-in-law and my mom were going to come out and visit, and they couldn't because I was inpatient in a hospital. And my mom she's like, well, Elaine, your mother-in-law doesn't know, does she? I'm like, yeah, she's known for years. Well, she's not going to tell anyone, is she? I said, I don't care. I don't care who knows. So I have no problem talking about this, but I wish I could be open with my own family. And I have never been as open as I am now because I'll get that in a second, Katie. Thank you. I'm comfortable at Christ Church. I really am. I'm very and not everyone here gets it. I've been told by one couple I have a character flaw, another couple just, not everyone gets it, but for whatever reason, I feel really comfortable here. So talk therapy. Katie had a question about talk therapy. I was in talk therapy with the same psychologist for maybe 15 years, and it was wonderful. Got me through a lot. I feel I've been there, done that at this point. Maybe that's not healthy to feel that because the anxiety part is new, and I could probably, while I'm thinking about it now, get some help with this, with good talk therapy. So it's hard to start with someone new. Oh my gosh. Since I've been here, I've been interviewing some therapists, and there was one gentleman I talked to him for an hour, and he never looked at me. It was so weird. It was just bizarre. And he's like, do you want to make another appointment? I'm like, well, I'll get back to you on that. I'd like to bring up a point with this too. And that point is I am not shy, and I'm good at advocating for myself, but not everyone is like that. Not everyone is like that. And I have really good insurance, and it's hard to find someone who takes it because I'm also on, I also have Medicare for disability for my depression. And to find someone who will take the right insurance, it takes a couple of weeks to call them around. And then you interview people. I like to call it interviewing people, because I'm not just going to pour my heart out to anyone. And then you get people like the man who didn't talk to me after you finally find someone who takes your insurance. I worry about people who either don't have a good support system going through this. I have a really good support system. I'm blessed. And I worry about people, even like people on Medicaid, because they only get so many visits and they're stretched wide apart, and they get different people. There are some, I think, Katie, does the Access Center here help with case management? Okay, the Lynn County Access Center. I'm sure in other communities there are places that help with case management. If you have someone that you love that's going through this, I encourage you to find out what those places are, because it's hard. And to find a good therapist is hard anyway. And if you are depressed and trying to pick up the phone and call someone, that's a no-go. I said it before, I've literally had days where if I make it to the bathroom, that's a good day. So I don't know if that answered your question, Katie. I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Julie, I wonder what you do yourself to help mediate when you can kind of feel it coming on. Are there any things that you can do to help yourself feel better, or do you just have to get through it?
I do have, for depression, sometimes I'll force myself. I talked about how hard it is to shower and brush my teeth. And like I said, that's very common. Sometimes if I force myself to take that shower and get dressed, things are better. So, and it's so hard. I don't know how to explain it. It probably sounds odd, but it's so hard just to get in the shower when you don't want to and you just want to sit on the couch. But sometimes it helps, Melody, to take that first step. I enjoy yoga. Yoga is very meditative for me. I don't have a lot of, and Katie knows, Katie taught me this term, protective factors, which, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Katie, protective factors or life factors that help you when you're going through stress or life changes. I don't have a lot of them. And that's something I really need to work on. I really do. Sometimes if I'm sitting at home, I'm getting anxious, I will clean a closet. If that doesn't work, we'll go out for coffee. Sometimes just changing my environment will work. But I don't have as many as I should have.
I don't know that there's a amount that you should have. Don't should on yourself there, Julie.
Okay.
I think that actually you've identified quite a few protective factors when you've talked about your family, when you've talked about the support that you feel from people, when you talk about your advocacy. I mean, those are all protective factors. It perhaps not in the moment when you're in crisis, maybe that's an area to work on, but you have a lot of protective factors that are helping you with maybe more of the prevention end and the treatment end too. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I do try, I do have a medication that I use for anxiety, Seroquel. I don't remember the last time I wasn't on it. I take it for sleep. And then if I'm really anxious, I will take a very small dose. My doctor knows this, by the way. He knows, he recommended it. but I won't do that unless I have exhausted everything else. And what it does is it makes me a little sleepy, but it does cut the pain. So sometimes it's a balancing act. Am I in enough pain that I need a pill? Huh? Or should I try something else? And so I'll try the something else. And I have a thing with Brian. I will always tell him if I take a pill. It just seems like a good plan. You know, so I'm not, it's a very small dose, very small, but I just feel better with him knowing for whatever reason. So I would like to, if it's all right, talk about a subject it's really hard for me to talk about, but I think it's necessary, and that is suicide. That is suicide. And I wrote something out, and I don't think I'm going to need it. To me, there are different levels of being suicidal. The first level for me, there are 3 levels. The first level is the idea is kind of hanging out in the back of my head. I don't have a plan, but the idea is it's just kind of hanging there, and I'll look at it kind of from a distance, and then go about my day. I was like that for about a year and a half before my TMS treatment, and now it's gone completely. That's the first thing that went with TMS. They asked, well, are you having, and that was within the first 2 weeks. It was wonderful, but that was gone. The second level is where you have a plan, but you don't want to. And again, this is for me. You have a plan, but you realize you don't want to hurt your loved ones. When I'm at that level, I ask for help or I go somewhere. The third level, which I have been to before once, is you don't care anymore. You hurt so damn bad that it's got to stop. I was there once. My family came home and interrupted me. I was going to jump from a balcony, and I hurt so bad I can't even describe that pain. But they came home. We went to we had 2 small children at that time, and so we went to the emergency room, and I got into the poor Brian it was like at midnight, and the kids were tired and screaming, and I was by myself in the emergency room so he could take care of the kids. And there was someone next to me in the next bin over, you know, they separate them by the cloth. At the next bin over, that was, I don't know if they're having delusions, but they were very loud. And so the medical staff told me, we can't help you. We have to help this person next to you because they're being loud. You need to go home. That was rough. That was rough. We called my mother-in-law. She came down, slept on our couch, took care of the kids while I did the best that I could. During all that, I found a doctor and put on medication that worked. That was the roughest time in my life, because like I said before, it takes several weeks for medication to kick in. And I wonder how many other people have that experience. Sometimes the quiet people don't get the help, or the people that know how to smile, you know, hold that sign in front of you. You don't get the help, and that's not right. That's not right. So, but those are the levels for me anyway. Are there any other questions?
Thank you for talking about that, Julie. I know it's hard, but it's important for other people to try and understand or get a sense of what's going on in a person's mind when they're contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And I know that suicide is not a sin because, first of all, God loves us and nothing can separate us from the love of God. You're not trying to hurt someone, you just want the pain to end. And that's a terrible place to be in, a terrible place. And so again, if you have any doubts about someone around you, be aggressive. Be aggressive. You may lose their friendship. That's okay. That's okay. That may happen. That may happen, but that's okay. I will have people come, since I'm so open about my mental illness, I will have people come and talk to me and say, hey, I've got a friend of mine or a family member, and I always stop them because I tell them I am not a counselor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a counselor. I cannot counsel you on what to do. What I can tell you is to call 988. I will say it again. If you don't know what's in your community, if you're not sure if you should take them to the emergency room, just call. Just call. It's not a perfect system, I will tell you that. And emergency rooms suck. The last time I was in one was not this last October, but the October before. And for me to get in a room took 6 hours of sitting in a hallway in the emergency room. That's rough. That's rough. Inpatient, being inpatient, and I've been inpatient, I can't tell you how many times. It's awful. Sometimes you do it just because you hurt so badly, you think that, well, maybe this time it won't be so bad. It's better than dying. So if you, I'm not saying you shouldn't go inpatient. I'm not saying you shouldn't take someone to the emergency room. It is better than dying. But it's very hard. When I was inpatient, you'll see me smile sometimes when I'm talking about hard things because I like humor, it helps me. But I was sitting, there's a lot of crafts inpatient. I've made cupcakes before, I'm not sure why. A lot of craft work. I've made paper airplanes, it's weird. Anyway, I was sitting there coloring with 2 other ladies. And it's just like any other place, you kind of gravitate to people to hang with. And one of them looked up in the middle of coloring and said, I could stab someone right now. And then she looked down and kept on coloring. I was like, okay. And then later she, I don't know what her diagnosis was, but she thought I was someone bad and she was coming after me. So I just went and hung out by the nurse's station until that had passed for her. And the nurse tells me it's okay. She thought you were someone else. And I said, that's not better. That's not a better situation for me. I had this conversation with Brian the other day. Being in Cedar Rapids, if I get to that stage again, I believe I shall go to the Access Center. I've heard a lot of good things about the Access Center. So there are access centers in each of the regions in Iowa. Oh, excellent. I did not know that. Okay. But if you have someone that you love, if you just love, find out. And if you're clergy, I encourage you to have a list. Find out, because people will come to you. I know. Are there any other questions? me check my notes.
While you're
Um,
doing that, it's the next session, and is there one coming up one in February, and what's the program?
Oh, I'm excited for this, and Amy can fill you in more, but Katie Lee is the program.
That's what I was gonna say. Katie wants to jump in. That would be great.
Katie.
Gotta find my unmute button. Yeah, so the program in I think it's February 3rd. Am I right?
Oh, hang on, I
Anyway.
got my phone.
Really talking about protective factors, also, you know, what is available. I'd like to talk a bit about at least my experience with the Mental Health Access Center in Lynn County. These might look different in different regions. They're not all exactly alike, but at least I could talk to a little bit about the one in Lynn County. I sent a little blurb to Amy that she put on Facebook. So, but really want to talk about what are the ways that we can support people with mental health challenges. What are some of the things we can do to help ourselves preventative wise as well?
Thank you.
Yeah,
I wanted to say, since we seem to be winding down, that first of all, thank you for being here. Remember a couple things. Remember that you never know what someone's going through. They may seem to be on top of the world, but you don't know what's going on in their life. So let's treat each other kindly and with compassion. And also, y'all are advocates. By being here, you've got some more knowledge and you can advocate for someone who's going through this. Not just with depression and anxiety, with there's schizophrenia, there's, oh my gosh, there's so much. I don't know if anyone else has any parting questions, but I want to thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. It's kind of hard. I've never done this on Zoom and it's kind of hard not to have you in front of me, but I think I adapted okay. So, I mean, you're in front of me,
You
but
did great, Julie. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
so much, Julie.
Thanks, guys. Stay warm.